Oh man, I just knew Blizz was gonna break everything. The whole city is falling apart. Everyone outside is rioting because the promised warband banks are broken. I gotta get out of here before the tower burns down. Where's Gamma? What could that goofy lizard be up to at a time like this?
Running all these dungeons and raids to get transmog for everyone is great. I'm having so much fun with the pre-patch. Where should I head next? Wait, is the city in fire? What's going on over there?
I had to wait until midnight Eastern time for this? I'm out of here. Why is my teleport missing textures? How's it, friends? I'm Nazubro, and everything is broken. Well, most things at least. Now, funny intro aside, I do want to clarify that, well, yeah, things are quite busted, or at least they are at the time of making this video. I would rather them be busted now than the actual expansion launch, so I'm not entirely too bothered. Although many are growing increasingly more worried that these problems won't be resolved by expansion launch. But either way, I'm an optimist, so hopefully things will be a bit busted now but be fixed later, and I'm mostly okay with that. Except for those broken teleport and portal textures. How did that happen? As a mage main, I request, nay, demand reparations, or something. So yeah, it's no secret that this pre-patch launch seemed to break a whole lot in the game. But let's look on the bright side. The Warband system exists and mostly works. Dragonflight renowns are all account-wide, so that's a plus. Moving currencies also works great. I now have over 10,000 time walking badges on my mage to drop on some goodies next time time walking rolls around. Account-wide transmog collecting no matter the armor type works awesome. The character select screen is sweet. Apparently it can take upwards of 20 minutes to fully convert your account to the Warband system upon logging in for the first time, but mine only took like 3 seconds, 4 tops. The Warband bank is also amazing for, oh well yeah, that's broken. Now, unless it's fixed by the time this video goes up, at the time of writing this script, it's still pretty busted. Unfortunate that the aspect of Warbands that many were looking forward to the most is currently the one that just isn't working. But like I mentioned before, better now than War Within launch, right? Let's see, what else is new and working? Well, the map looks real nice. Look at all these shiny new icons. Even some of the old staples like dungeons and raid entrances. Every type of quest under the sun now has its own icon. It feels so fancy and modern. Very cool. Speaking of UI updates, the spellbook got its glow up and smells of fresh ink and parchment. I've seen some people say they weren't into the new spellbook when it first showed up on the beta, but regardless of how it looks, it did get some really nice functionality. Like a search bar. The game is 20 years old and we just now got a search bar for our spells and abilities. We did it, lads. We are in the year 2024. A whole new look to spells that aren't on your bars yet. It's all real comfy. I'm a fan. Honestly, with the new map feeling refreshed, with all the new icons and other features like the legend. Oh yeah, did I mention there's a legend? The spellbook is nice, plus some other older enhancements like the Hunter Stable. Let's work on the character panel and collections next, Blizz. I believe in you. Alright, UI stuff is there and all works great, except for the mage teleports and portals. What's up with that missing texture on the edges? I remember seeing that on the beta, and it's a bit weird that it made it this far. What is even supposed to be there? What is it supposed to look like? Who knows? Certainly not me. What else is working fine? Oh yeah, skywriting seems to be good. If you're extra tired of writing dragons everywhere, now you can finally give them a vacation and whip out the Invincible and Ashes of Alar that you definitely have. I don't have either. Huh. Something else I experienced that is pretty funny to me and also doesn't matter in the slightest. So my main is a Void Elf mage. He actually was previously a human, and then I race changed him back in BFA to Void Elf because I was and still am on the High Elf Copian blimp. Anyways, because he was race changed, he is not eligible for the Void Elf Heritage Armor. Or at least he shouldn't be. But upon logging in, he was. I got the quest from Illyria to swing by Telugris Rift and pick up the armor set. This would matter more, but I already have the set unlocked from leveling a separate Void Elf back in the day, that no longer exists. So I gained nothing but utter confusion. My best guess is that during the conversion to the Warband system, whatever marker was on my character indicating he was not eligible for the Heritage Armor quest was somehow forgotten, or left behind, or cleared, or something. Whatever it was, it didn't survive. Or maybe since everything is account-wide now, my account remembers that another character in the past was eligible and achieved it, or something? It's beyond mortal understanding, but Let me know in the comments if something similar happened to you. And that was generally my experience with pre-patch on day 1, which was, I must point out, at midnight Eastern time, when the maintenance was finally over. That's one hell of an intense maintenance. I will say again though, better these kinks happen now, a month-ish before expansion launch, than when the expansion goes live. Because they're definitely going to be fixed before expansion launch, right guys? Obviously in an ideal world, things wouldn't be this busted, especially with all the testing that has been done, but also obviously, we don't live in an ideal world. And I can guarantee Blizz is just as frustrated with these issues as we are. They've got their work cut out for them with how foundational of a change to the game Warbands are, and I'm sure to be smoothed over in time, at least for early War Within, if not launch. I believe in you, Blizz, don't worry. So besides all the pre-patch shenanigans that have gone on, what else is there to talk about? Well, more than you think, so let's turn our gaze away from pre-patch and look at some more pre-patch. You might have noticed that some classes have different tier set bonuses than before pre-patch. Easily explained, basically some classes got those previous bonuses baked into their class or spec trees to use whenever. Arcane Mage is a good example. The bonus where every couple arcane missiles shoots stronger missiles that also hit other enemies is now right there, in the spec tree. So to prevent any weirdness, Blizz just opted to change what the tier set bonus is instead. The full selection to get this treatment are Unholy DK, Preservation Evoker, Arcane and Fire Mage, Mistweaver Monk, Resto Shaman, and Affliction and Demo Warlock. Link in the description to see exactly which tier set replaced the one you had before. Speaking of updated classes though, some players have noticed that certain talent trees are not the most current versions from the recent beta builds, but from older beta builds instead. Now Blizz did confirm this is intended, and the most up-to-date spec trees will be implemented when the War Within goes live, but it is strange that this is something that has to happen this way. I mean, I probably know why, it just comes down to how patches are built and deployed. I figure something like this isn't something that Blizz can just swap out with a more recent build, like it's modular or something. I'm no game dev though, so that's just a guess. The affected trees seem to be Ret Paladin, Enhancement Shaman, Survival Hunter, and Windwalker Monk. There's a link to the fantastic Wowhead article going over the differences in the description below, so go check that out if you want. Some other new stuff with the pre-patch, Blizz updated the level 60 character boost to include some eye level 327 gear, up from 180. That's a pretty huge leap for level 60, so if you have any lingering boosts you haven't used yet, go ahead and juice a character if you feel like. And of course, as Blizz pointed out months ago, now that pre-patch is here, all 3 Dragonflight raids will be awakened until the launch of War Within. If you still need to get your Wilderling, or any of the titles or anything, now is your time. With a good group, you could probably clear all 3 in the same week, or even the same day, if you shoot for normal. This also means that every rep buff is active too, which makes now a good time to wrap up some of those renowns. Sure is handy that those Dragonflight renowns are all account-wide now too, thanks to Warbands. Get cracking and finish those off, bros. Speaking of raids though, I gotta point out that you can include Dragonflight and Mythic raid bosses as things that are a bit broken. Specifically, it seems to be all the final bosses, and also Tindral. They all seem to be affected by some weird bugs or other issues. If you're still pushing Mythic raids for whatever reason, these might pose an issue to you and your groups. Sorry lads. One last actual bit of news from the pre-patch is regarding the quests that lead into the actual pre-patch event. Basically, when the event goes live in a few days, the Dark Heart quests are a required prerequisite. You won't be able to do the quest line for the event unless you've done the Dark Heart quests first. You can still participate in the event though. Now this is a change that, in all honesty, I like. This game needs some more linear story, seriously. One of the reasons the story fails most of the time is because it really doesn't try to be a story. Sometimes it just feels like quest lines, and especially their cinematics, are designed almost like just trailers for what's next. Especially with every cinematic ending with an orchestral swell of some kind. If you don't like being forced to do quests, take a step back and at least give it a try. This is an MMORPG after all. Ignore the numbers for a bit and think about what drew you to this universe in the first place. Anyways, that's my soapbox segment done. I promise. So yeah, pre-patch is a bit of a mess, but War Within is so close, the sentiment that it is not yet ready went from a low rumble to a full-on thunderstorm of voices. I am mostly an optimist, and I gotta say I am also a bit worried. At this point, the release date is probably set in stone, so we'll just have to see what's up. Some people have begun to push for a delay, but I don't think it's possible at this point. There's a full patch notes for the pre-patch linked in the description too, as well as the usual beta development notes, so if you want to check those out, go ahead. Outside of the live game, we've got some other stuff to go over. With the launch of pre-patch, Blizz also put out a full schedule of everything you might need to know leading up all the way to the raid launch and beyond. Let's break it down, even though we've gone over most of this stuff a few times already. So in a few days on the 30th, the pre-patch event begins. Then, all the way on August 20th, the PvP pre-season begins with the weekly reset. Then of course on the 22nd, early access begins with normal dungeons being open. Then the official launch on the 26th, which also opens up heroic dungeons, which remember are quite a bit harder than what they used to be these days. Then on September 10th, Season 1 begins with heroic raids, mythic zeros, as well as Raid Finder Wing 1, a world boss and PvP Season 1 as well. Then a week later on the 17th, the Mythic Raid opens and Mythic Plus begins. This is also when we get the Raid story mode thing, so that's pretty sweet. At least we won't have to wait all the way until LFR Wing 3, which, by the way, opens up the next week on the 24th. Like I said, most of this we already knew. Some other rapid-fire small stuff. McFarlane Toys is putting out 2 more of their little statues that come with customizable gear. These are pretty sweet. I actually own the human one and it's awesome. The newest 2 are Pandaren and Dwarf, which are pretty cool. Weird that the dwarf has a wolf and not a bear though, which is the pretty iconic pair from the first trailer. Next up, some more selling things on the store that were once bonus items for the trading post. Those weapons themed after the Titans, the Sargeras sword, and the lore-filled Staff of the Harbinger are being sold for $12 US as a pack. Which is, yeah, it's a thing. And finally, a new login screen has been data mined. Yes, an even newer one. This one is quite an improvement, and will likely appear once the expansion goes live. Looks like everyone was right about the login screen changing. It also seems set up in such a way that they can easily swap out the location in the middle for whatever the current patch is, which will probably be pretty cool. And I think I'm going to call it there. There's so much news and I definitely didn't cover it all. It is truly unfortunate that pre-patch is in such a bad state, but I am crossing my fingers that somehow launch will be alright. As for you guys, if you made it to the end of this video, you're a legend. Please consider leaving a like if you enjoy how I do things here, and subscribing would mean the world to me. Until next time, stay safe, bros.